So as I said, this is a very power-packed passage, and I would like to read it again in one go without anything else. But before that, just one line probably needs a clarification, half humorously, because there is a line here: "Thy voice shall house the mightiness of His word." Please don't end up believing that good speakers are housing the mightiness of His word. The word here is the word, the original vibration of the divine consciousness. So there should be no illusions about this, that it's that word, the stir, the vibration, the creative consciousness, the Shakti, that to house that, and of that word, the human instrument which is meant to express it is the apparatus of speech. It's also the most evolved apparatus if we see the instruments which nature has created in the design so far. But unfortunately, this speech most often expresses all kinds of, spins out all kinds of philosophical, intellectual ideas, arguments. Worse still, expresses all kinds of things such as desire, still worse, anger, quarrels, all these things. So that's why when it is said this voice can house the mightiness of His word, this word is not just good speech. This is an instrument, and that word, which is the original stir in the transcendent hush, to house that. So that is what is being spoken of, and not... and one may not be speaking at all and yet house the mightiness of the word. Look at Sri Ramakrishna Paramhans. Sri Aurobindo speaks about that. He was illiterate, and yet he spoke very little, but whatever he spoke with such a clarity. It's amazing. Sri Aurobindo has appreciated it. Among the things that he brought with him to Pondicherry was the gospel and some mud from Dakshineshwar. And he gives the example of Sri Ramakrishna when he refers to this idea that you all have, that intellectual development. So it should not be mistaken for a highly intellectualized mind who can spin out very complicated concepts, a very scholarly person. It's nothing to do with all that. Sri Ramakrishna could house that word, and whatever he spoke with that intuitive intelligence spontaneously. Vivekananda spoke so much, and yet what did Vivekananda say? Oh, my master can create thousands like me. That is called the mightiness of the word. And that requires all this. It's a sadhana in its own right. For instance, a simple sadhana like, let's not think of useless thoughts. Let's not speak meaninglessly. Like, take home point from here. Let's not be constantly allowing the senses to frit here and there and all the time. Let's quieten the mind. These are simple things we can practice. Let's use our speech for things which are really essential, which are beautiful, which will do good in the world, so that it can become an instrument of the divine. Let me not allow my heart to feel in a contrary way, because we have to experience the divine. We have to allow our heart to throb in God. So all these are things which we can try. And if there is a genuineness and sincerity, the rest is done by divine grace. It's like normally, in complicated exams, at least in school, I don't know now, there used to be something called grace marks. So if you had 48 and passing was 50, so the teacher could give you 2 grace marks. In this yoga, if we have 1 or 2 marks, passing is 100, 98 is added by mother. I can tell you that. Grace marks. But that little effort we have to do. It can't be, okay, mother will do everything. That much to try to remember, to try to quieten, not to uselessly waste energy. These are very simple things. That's what she has given another program for us, more simpler, but the rest can be done by the grace. So now I'll read this full passage without stopping, and then go on to the next passage. The voice replied, "Remember why thou camest. Find out thy soul, recover thy hid self. In silence, seek God's meaning in thy depths. Then mortal nature change to the divine. Open God's door, enter into his trance. Cast thought from thee, that nimble ape of light. In his tremendous hush, stilling thy brain, his vast truth wake within, and know and see. Cast from the sense that veils thy spirit's sight. In the enormous emptiness of thy mind, thou shalt see the Eternal's body in the world. Know him in every contact, know him in every voice heard by thy soul. In the world's contacts, meet his single touch. All things shall fold thee into his embrace. Conquer thy heart's throbs. Let thy heart beat in God. Thy nature shall be the engine of his works. Thy voice shall house the mightiness of his word. Then shall thou harbor my force and conquer death. Then we see the magical change coming on Savitri. We have seen her life before she opens to yoga. And Sri Aurobindo, by the sheer power of few lines, will bring the contrast in a life before yoga and what happens when the process of yoga starts. We have read the previous canto. Savitri passionately seeking, loving, with genuineness in her heart, one-pointedly. Satyavan is all her life, all her love. She is doing everything that an ideal daughter, daughter-in-law, wife, sister would do. And yet her heart is helpless against the siege of death, which is drawing near and near. So she is full of fear and anxiety, so much so that the moods of nature reflect her own state. She is not able to enjoy the rain, the clouds, everything is colored by her perception, till her love and her grief fills the whole world. She experiences disenchantment, disillusionment, and a kind of vairagya has come upon her. And now see, just with few lines, is the magic of Sri Aurobindo. He'll once again, through nature, describe Savitri to us. Then Savitri by her doomed husband sat. Suddenly she has risen to the stature of the gods. And there is the doomed husband. No more like, she is worrying about him and what may happen. Still rigid in her gold and motionless pose, a statue of the fire of the inner sun. Mighty transformation has already come upon her. In the black night, the wrath of storm swept by. Look at the magic of these words. He has spoken about the storm earlier, but in the storm she was hearing the Titan's voice. Now what is happening? In the dark night, the storm is sweeping by. Savitri is sitting like a golden statue, a being of fire, mating with the sun. The thunder crashed above her. The rain hissed. Its million footsteps pattered on the roof. Impassive, mid the movement and the cry. But she is sitting impassive, indifferent to all this. Witness of the thoughts of mind, the moods of life. She is no more flowing with them, getting caught with them, mistaking them for the cry of her soul. She is no more doing that. She has become a witness. She looked into herself and sought for her soul. So being a witness is just one preliminary step. It's not a whole yoga. It's just one small step. And it prevents the strong grip of nature. And then she looks inside and seeks her soul. And what does she discover to start with? She discovers, because her soul embodies the whole creation. She is the Jagannatha. She has taken human birth. A dream disclosed to her the cosmic past. When we withdraw from the surface consciousness, we enter into the dream world. So most often in the dream world, we gravitate towards all kinds of silly things. But we can climb through these dream worlds, swim through them, layer after layer, till we reach the very bedrock of existence, to the core, the living truth. So Savitri also sees the cosmic past. The crypt seed and the mystic origins, the shadowy beginnings of world fate, a lamp of symbol lighting hidden truth, imaged to her the world's significance. Now she is suddenly seeing everything with a new eye. She is seeing the whole story of creation. Because to do what she has come here to do, she must know that totality called creation. That's why in the Gita, Arjuna has to become instrument of the divine. But to become the instrument of the divine, he must know the totality of the divine. It's not enough to say, okay, you are my friend, you tell me today, I am going to shoot the arrow. The whole creation is poured into the Gita to make Arjuna an instrument. So also Savitri suddenly becomes aware of the entire creation, the cosmos, and how it has come. In the indeterminate formlessness of self, creation took its first mysterious steps. It made the body shape a house of soul. She becomes aware of that. This body is not just the human body. Right from the atomic existence, it is built. Forms are built to house the soul. In short, we may say, forms are bodies built for the soul. This truth itself is a very liberating truth and changes the whole perspective, because we are all the time seeing about forms growing, disintegrating, but she has seen a mystic truth behind the forms, that's simply a body, a shell to house the soul. And matter learned to think and person grew. So this form, because it comes in contact with the seed of the divine, it also begins to evolve, begins to think and feel and live, because just as in a lamp, the light within also lights up the covering, so also as this soul, which is the secret light within, the coverings, the body, the material casement, it begins to also reflect something of that which is within. She saw space peopled with the seeds of life and saw the human creature born in time. So what does she see? At first appeared a dim, half-neutral tide. It is not yet having a direction to go. It's very interesting, half-neutral tide. It's like something appears out of that formlessness of self. It is the condition for the manifestation. He is not now speaking here of the creative word. That should have been described elsewhere. There has to be something. It is the true matter, which is the condition for the manifestation. The substance which is appearing like a little half-neutral tide. Then it will tend to take certain direction of being emerging out of infinite naught. A consciousness looked at the inconscient vast, and then what happens? The sense of being, that emerges, and there is a certain kind of looking, angularity of vision, a kind of seeing, experiencing, perceiving. All this begins to appear. And pleasure and pain stirred in the insensible void. That's where the neutral void tends to become. This is described in the Life Divine in one of the chapters, Conscious Force, if I'm not mistaken, where he speaks of the 5 elements and how they emerge. So at first there is just the stir, and then there is a attraction and repulsion. This force comes, and with that comes duality, pleasure and pain in human beings and the animals. But something corresponding to that is there at the beginning of creation. The forces of attraction and repulsion. That's how their differences begin to appear. So first there is space and extension. Then there is the stir, the waves. But these waveforms cannot become forms. So within it comes the Jal Tattva, which creates certain attractions and repulsions. So these forms begin to coalesce a little bit. But even that is not stable. So then comes another element, the electrical energy. And then comes the earth, which will bind them, coalesce them. So this Sri Aurobindo has touched upon in Book 2, Canto 1, where he gives it very brief. Now here again we see he is revealing this to us in another way, as Savitri experiences them. And pleasure and pain stirred in the insensible void. All was the deed of a blind world energy. Unconscious of her own exploits, she worked, shaping a universe out of the innate. So all these tattvas, the 5 elements, are working. They don't know. They are moved by a force greater than themselves. They don't yet know who is moving them. The Panch Mahabhut, as they say in Indian thought. They are compelled. So they enter and create all these things, and therefore matter is being coalesced. But there is a greater force which is moving them and using them. In fragmentary beings, she grew aware. A chaos of little sensibilities gathered round a small ego's pinpoint head. So this is the first understanding of nature, these Panch Mahabhut, Prakriti. Then what does Prakriti do? It creates these forms, and because of the presence of the soul, she herself begins to grow aware of what's happening. In it, a sentient creature found its poise. It moved and lived a breathing, thinking whole. So in these forms, slowly, consciousness expands, consciousness begins to stir with thought, consciousness begins to breathe and live and come alive. On a dim ocean of subconscious life, it's a very vast vision. We may think it's just about ourselves, the whole creation, because these 5 elements are there everywhere. On a dim ocean of subconscious life, a formless surface consciousness awoke. A stream of thoughts and feelings came and went. So then what happens? Still the personalities are not crystallized. Ego is created, but still it has to gather. Then there is the feelings and thoughts going on the surface of the ocean of life. Now what the ego will do? It will gather them and slowly form a personality by sheer repetition of a certain movement. That is how personalities are formed, to which we get so badly attached. And Sri Aurobindo is describing that these things are everywhere. They are moving in the ocean of life. What we pick up, the ego picks it up. How to put it? It's like this. We can say that we go outside, pick up some water, Ganges water from a point, and bottle it. Then this becomes my water. Now this my water, then other things can start. I can sell this water, I can preserve this water. This water may get spoiled, I may add color to it. I may put a label and say Ganges water from the purest source, only for $10. Now I can do 100 things with this water. But basically Ganges water is flowing continuously. So also these things are streaming past all the time. What is called as universal nature. This illusion of personality comes from believing my nature, and that's where the torment starts. This is me, that is not me. Then there is a fight, struggle, clash. Through all this, personality shapes itself. All this also is allowed so that a very crystal clear personality is shaped. And when it is shaped through the clash and conflict of forces, what is called as by Heraclitus as Var is the father of all things. Sri Aurobindo speaks of that in Essays on the Gita. Through this clash and conflict of forces, a personality is carved out of mud. Look at the beautiful seashell on the shore. It's formed because the ocean waves keep on impinging upon a little grain, and slowly such shapes are formed and it becomes crystal clear. It becomes like something formed. So that's how personality is formed. And once it is formed, then we are asked to do something different. That now that the individuality is formed, now surrender it to the divine. So that in that individuality, the divine can pour in his light, his consciousness, his force, his beauty, his love and ananda, and transform it. This is the process. So now what is being described is the formation of a personality. So first there are elements and elemental energies which create something like a form, first forms. And past these forms there is floating all these different studs which are taking place in Prakriti is born out of these Panch Mahabhut. The liquid element, the Jal Tattva also takes the form of feelings, is the vital force. The mental energy will also take the form of thoughts and they are moving. So how to crystallize them? There is an ego sense which is born. And Sri Krishna speaks of this in the Gita also. So ego sense. Nature creates an ego sense around which things begin to gather. A foam of memories hardened and became a bright crust of habitual sense and thought. Form of memories. Children don't have readily this sense of me and not me. So they can easily give away something of their own to a friend. And so also they can pick up. This is mine. They have picked up a key and kept in the pocket. Now parents are thinking, oh, my child is learning to steal. He is not stealing. He doesn't know. He likes it, he picked up. He lives in that consciousness, Vasudevam Sarvamiti. Isha Vasyamidam Sarvam Yat Kincha Jagatyam Jagat. Everything belongs to God. Let me pick it up and take it. And you try to ask him, he will hide. No, I am not going to give. At this point it is with him. But when subsequently you succeed in taking away, not like us that for lifelong we will cry, oh, I lost this. Maybe for some time after that it's gone. Because it's not yet crystallized. But as he grows, these foam of memories become hardened, coalesce. Identities form like that. Identities, psychologists say, form around 15, 16. Though the process of the ego starts very early, perhaps almost from birth. Some people say 2 years, some psychologists, latest they will say the theories. But some people say that almost from birth, certain likes, dislikes, the conditioning starts, maybe even from the womb. And then with this conditioning, certain things we automatically accept, certain things we reject. And over a period of time, this memory and habit forms a personality. And by 16, we say, this is me. And whoever dares challenge what is not acceptable to me, I don't accept even that person because it's not me. It's a different personality. But actually, if we look carefully, everything that is there in the world is also within me. Only it is hidden behind. That's one of the things one learns painfully in yoga. When one confronts, which we will read subsequently in this very canto. So slowly we begin to form a personality. A bright crust of habitual sense and thought, a seat of living personality on the surface foam. Below, the whole ocean is flowing past. All the feelings, sensations, thoughts are all around moving. But we are not aware. We are aware of only a very surface thing. And we call it myself. And we carry it proudly on our visiting cards. Dr. So-and-so, MBBS, MD, D.Lit, PhD. Also people write BSc, MSc. God knows why don't they write intermediate, class 1, 2, 3, 4. It will make a big card. It's understood. They like to write. Some people also, make a little logo. There are all kinds of things. They love to give their card. What is it? It's a surface, foam and froth. Nothing else. Chhotna, some of you may have heard. They had a very humorous way of saying things. And there was a real story. So he was loved by many and used to go around singing the songs of Mother and Sri Aurobindo through many of his talks. So once one rich man told him, Chhotnaranji, why don't you write my biography? I've been thinking of, somebody and who more capable than you. He said, okay. So he stayed there for 15 days. So after that he said, could you write something? Kuch likha? He said, thoda sa, just half a paragraph. He was very blunt. Scorpio by birth sign. Very loving but very blunt. So he said, can you please read it? He said, there was once a worm living in a palace. So he was shocked. What is he writing? He said he had a lot of riches. So he said, why are you writing like this? He said, what am I writing? I'm writing. You asked me to write a biography. What have you done to really write a biography? So I am just writing a fact. It doesn't matter. You may be a very rich man living in a palace, but life may be as worthless as a worm's life. So, we are so proud. It's just a surface. All our lineage, all this is crust. It gets hardened, coalesced, held by memories, which we won't let go. A seat of living personality and recurrent habits mimicked permanence. This in Buddhist teaching is, this is one of the kinds of meditations. By withdrawing from the surface, we can become aware of a stream of consciousness going past. And if we flow with a particular stream, it's one thing. But we can step back and see this whole thing passing. A very simple experiment one can do. A thought, a feeling, or an impulse may be striking very hard to gain admittance. And this is a process of yoga also. Now we concede to it. Every time we concede, it becomes more and more hardened by memory. You taste rasgulla, then every time you see the rasgulla, then you think of rasgulla, then you try ways and means to get the rasgulla. It becomes hardened more and more. And then after a while, you and rasgulla become one. It's part of your nature. You love rasgulla. What's wrong with it? But take another case scenario. You'd like the rasgulla. Then you say, okay, next time I have a urge to get the rasgulla, I'll just step back. So rasgulla will flow past. Maybe it'll hit hard, but after a while it'll go away. Then after some time, if you continue, then rasgulla is out. I am still to prove it, the love of rasgulla part. Other things it works, but somehow rasgullas keep coming to me despite not wanting. But that is a part. But this is the process. It's not me. At least this much we should know. Not to identify with these things as myself. Sri Aurobindo gives this process even in the synthesis of yoga. That when thoughts and feelings assail us, when they claim admittance, when we are angry, or these emotions come into us, we should stand back and say, this is not me. But instead we say, why not? I get angry. Well, you should know, I am prone to anger. It's natural. Then it won't go, because I am identified with anger. Anger is universal. It's not my soul inheritance. But if I allow it to go past, stand back and say, this is not me. That's how one undoes this superficial personality. Then after a while, we'll see that it becomes less and less strong, less and less powerful, less and less insistent, till we are eventually free from it. But here, Sri Aurobindo is describing how it is formed, not how it is undone. That we'll see later. Mind nascent labored out a mutable form. Then what does the mind do? It comes and links up all these memories and habits in a neat way. It arranges all this within the house and say, well, this is your house. I have done this job for you, homework. Stay here. This is me. So that's how it finally does the whole trick. It built a mobile house on shifting sands, a floating isle upon a bottomless sea. So it created the sense, the illusion of a personality, and it seats the soul within it, and it's a shifting sand all the time. Everything is changing, but we don't know how to change. That's why we die, and that's why children don't understand us, not because they are bad. It's because we have forgotten to change. After 25, we become crystallized. After 50, we become fossilized. After 75, for the children, we are already dinosaurs and, paleontological era. We think very highly of ourselves, but for them, old man, no, when he is going to go, we don't know. In front, they will give respect if they are good enough. But if they are better, they will say, look, please, you don't know us. Please don't, It's fine if I am WhatsApping. Don't think it's wrong. You didn't do it, doesn't mean it's wrong. So, that's how. So, now they will get hooked on to another kind. Nature will play the same game with them. So, they will say the same thing with their children. In my time, we didn't have those, solar powered something on a button. We had nice, neat things called iPads. So, they will say, Dad, you are outdated. So, this is how it fixes a groove in which we move while the world stream is running past. This is the description. That things are moving, floating sands, we build a small little isle. What a wonderful description. A floating isle upon a bottomless sea. A conscious being was by this labor made. It looked around it on its difficult field. All around it sees differences, change. Such a vast field cannot handle. In the green, wonderful and perilous earth. So he combines these two because the mind always looks at duality, thinks in a duality way. Wonderful and perilous earth. It hoped in a brief body to survive, relying on matter's false eternity. It felt a godhead in its fragile house. It saw blue heavens, dreamed immortality. So this is how there is the formation of a crystallized personality. So Savitri has now gone back into the cosmic past and come back and reconnected what she was feeling as a struggling being, wanting Satyavan to live. Now she has seen that entire process from within outward. She doesn't go from surface to within, but sees it from within outward. So the result is a conscious soul in the inconscious world, hidden behind our thoughts and hopes and dreams. But the real stuff is not this ego personality. There is a true being inside, and that is hidden behind our thoughts and hopes and dreams. But what is this fellow doing? An indifferent master signing nature's acts. So nature takes, please sign the check, like little children have inherited a huge estate. And there is a caretaker. So what does the caretaker do? He says, till this fellow grows up, I am going to enjoy this estate. But he is the actual boss, Malik. So what does it do? The Rajkumar, the prince. So for every time it has to sign the check, it says, bows down and says, Prince, please sign here. Oh, Kakaji signs it. So we have those old movies where the manager took out the whole estate. Of course, unless the manager is good. Very hard to find. Those olden days, there used to be good Munimjis. And the Malik, the Seth, did nothing. Everything was done by the Munim. And he was a really meticulous, perfect accountant. I have seen such people. I mean, he was handling the entire money, but will not alter a pie. Everything he will do meticulously. And the Seth grows richer. If such a manager is there, very nice. But usually, in the beginning, what does the soul do? It simply signs indifferently. If nature says, go this way, it says, okay, have this experience, very fine. Come, let's go to ashram, very good. Okay, I'll go. Then nature says, my mood is different. Across the divine, there is also the wine shop. Let's go there. Okay, I'll go. This is called indifferent. So nature is taking wherever one is going, because one it has the mercy of nature. And through this, nature is achieving something that we was revealed in the secret knowledge. An indifferent master, he is the master, but he is indifferent. Signing nature's acts, leaves the vicegerent mind a seeming king. So vicegerent, deputy, representative. So mind becomes the king because the soul is indifferently signing. It is still a little baby. In his floating house upon the sea of time, the regent sits at work and never rests. So what is this mind? The manager, he's all the time running here and there, all around the garden, the estate. He never rests. Like a genie, he is toiling. He is a puppet of the dance of time. He is driven by the hours. The moment's call compels him with the thronging of life's need and the babble of the voices of the world. As I said, wherever people take, he is going. Sometimes we hear such stories. We were planning to come to Pondicherry. Then what happened? Somebody's marriage took place. Hey, if you're planning to come, what is there? It's obviously not somebody where your presence was indispensable. Then again, we are planning to come. Then between we decided this summer, let's go to Nainital, have a holiday there. This is how the mind operates. But if there is a sole decision, even if earthquake comes or heaven falls, one will say what it has chosen, that it will do. Come what may. That's the science. Soul is resolute like that. Not rigidity, but resolute, firm, clear. But the mind is driven by the hours. It's a puppet. So morning it will say, it is so nice, the day is so wonderful, people in Pondicherry are very nice, food is so good. In the evening it says, horrible place, I don't know why, it's so hot out there. And what food they made in dining room? I think they forgot to put salt. This is how the mind behaves or misbehaves. And the soul to everything gives a sanction because it's indifferent. This mind no silence knows, nor dreamless sleep. So people who say, I don't see dream, they're actually not conscious of the dreams, that's all. Because everybody sees, we are not aware. So this mind knows no rest. In the incessant circling of its steps, thoughts tread forever through the listening brain. It toils like a machine and cannot stop. Nature doesn't stop. That's why it's the nature of nature. So beautifully described in the Ishupanishad. Jagatyam Jagat. It's ever moving. Mind is part of nature. It cannot stop like that. Something else can come and still it and quieten it. So it's the very nature which continuously stirs it. Vivekananda described it in a very interesting way. That is, boat is going on, imagine a boat going on storm. Boat is going on the sea and the sea is in spate and there is a storm to boot. And there is this pole without any support on that boat. And there is a monkey on that pole. Imagine the scenario. That is how the mind is. Imagine what kind of dance it is doing. Bharatnatyam. Without any rhythm. It toils like a machine and cannot stop. Into the body's many storied rooms. Endless crowd down the dream god's messages. All is a 100-toned murmur and babble and stir. There is a tireless running to and fro, a haste of movement and a ceaseless cry. Like, when there is a festival or a mela, haste of movement and a ceaseless cry. All something or the other is going on. The hurried servant senses answer apace to every knock upon the outer doors. So, as we are seeing, mind is the manager. Who are serving the mind? The senses. So everything seen, everything heard, touched, felt, and the mind says, yes, okay, look there. This one is distracted into 100 ways. Everything is drawing the mind, and the mind is constantly answering to every call. So, We need not answer every call. It's not necessary to always keep the mobile attention on the mobile. Unless you are a doctor attending emergencies, then don't. Please listen to the call. But otherwise, you can ignore it. At least in the ashram, we can ignore it. It doesn't matter. It's a simple training that the mind is this way. Otherwise, it will answer to every call, literally. To every call which is coming, suddenly, people get up and as if some big, world will crash down if they don't take that call. And some people do all kinds of things. They will press this button and they are hurrying out to answer as if, heavens will fall if they were not to intervene in the world. But that's not the path of yoga. When King Janak, there is a call that comes to King Janak. You are sitting in Yagnavalk's place and Mithila is burning. He says, let Mithila burn. I am with my master. Durai Swami. Every weekend he would come and be with Sri Aurobindo. He's there, part of the evening talks, and they would spend time together. He was a famous advocate in Chennai. And one day a wire came. Durai Swami needed urgently. Durai Swami wired back. Durai Swami is dead. He will reappear on Monday. This is yoga, the spirit of yoga. He's dead. Doesn't matter. But normally see how the mind answers. Sometimes even in mother's room, for few moments we are there. Even there our attention is on the luggage, on this, that, who is in front, who is behind. The whole history, geography is gone into the head. Except the one thing, that precious moment when we are face to face with the divine. So this is the nature of the mind. It's not that any particular person has it. This is a universal malady. Now the solution will come later, but first we must diagnose. To every knock upon the outer doors, bring in time's visitors, report each call. What we do, verse is not only answer, bring in the visitor. Allow him to come and enter into the heart. Oh, so and so said something, I am so hurt. You were remembering the divine, so happy. Somebody says, hey, you're not looking good. Now, we have allowed this thought to come inside. Am I all right? You see the doctor, please. Have I lost weight? Do I look well? Now what have you done? You have allowed that visitor to get inside. Not only it answers to the call, allows it. Admit the 1,000 queries and the calls and the messages of communicating minds. There is a silent, subtle, unseen interchange also that happens. That's why in yoga one has to be so conscious of people with whom to meet. Sri Aurobindo would write a letter. If you give yourself to an outsider, you obviously go out of the protection. You can have a psychic love for someone, a universal love for all, but you have to give yourself only to the divine. Categorical. There can be a psychic love, a special feeling for someone. It's perfectly fine because that's how the cycle relates in this world. And a universal love for all. Maitri, Karuna, Evascha. But giving only to the divine. It's a letter of Sri Aurobindo. So, if the mind takes one out and does all this, and this is happening unseen, communicating minds, and the heavy business of unnumbered lives. That's why collective meditation is not desirable when we have grown to a point in our consciousness, but desirable when we are yet growing, because then the consciousness of those who are more developed, it helps. It becomes like one consciousness all the time. So if we go to bazaar, because of the communicating influence, we feel like buying something. That's how it works. Because there is a bazaar, you go, you feel like buying. You've gone without this thought, but suddenly, oh, this dress is very nice. Let me pick it up. Oh, let me eat this. Because that's how this interchange takes place. Commerce. And all the 1,000-fold commerce of the world. This is the original commerce. In last few lines. Even in the tracts of sleep is scant repose. He mocks life's steps in strange subconscious dreams. Even people with whom we are in the same room. It's not recommended in yoga. Have your own resting place. Otherwise it can be this. Because that time we are defenseless, helpless. And all kinds of influences can enter without our knowledge. He strays in a subtle realm of symbol scenes, his night with thin air visions and dim forms. He packs or peoples with slight drifting shapes and only a moment spent in silent self. So even in sleep, we travel here and there, helter skelter, all kinds of things, chaotic, and yet at the end, this mind goes back to its source, touches that silent self, and comes back rejuvenated. Those few minutes are the really refreshing parts of the whole sleep. So this what Shubindu is revealing to us. We'll continue tomorrow further. Some very interesting passages about human nature and how it operates, which will follow soon tomorrow.